The Nick Bahe Podcast is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. And if you're thinking about some new windows or new doors, let me give you a little help to get things started. First of all, you got to go with Pella. That's obvious. And with Pella, there are a couple of directions you can go. Number one, you can schedule a free in-home consultation. That's right, it is free. You're going to get a Pella expert out to sit down with you and look at your home, and they're going to be able to put together a Tom Osborne-esque game plan that fits your budget, your home, your wants, and your needs. So that's one option. Or option number two, head out to the showroom. They got showrooms in Omaha and Lincoln. They are really cool. Sometimes it helps to actually see the window, see the door, feel it, open it, close it to get a better feel for exactly what you are installing in your home. So the showroom's also a great place to go as well. Any direction you go with Pella, just know that Pella can 100% provide window and door solutions to any home. Check them out online, PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com. And the Nick Bahe Podcast is brought to you by Runza. Been telling you about this app that Runza has, and you need to go get it. Just go to the App Store right now, download the Runza app. You can order food on the app, have it ready to pick up in the restaurant. You can earn points for rewards. In fact, when you download the app, you can get $5 off your first order in the app. It's arguably the greatest app of all time. So go download the Runza app. You get Runza, get rewards, then get more Runza. All on the app. Runza makes it all better. Okay, welcome back into the podcast. And listen, man, for the introduction of who my guest is today, for those who are Husker football fans and know the real legends of the program, my guest today is the real deal. He's a guy that basically needs no introduction. He's Jason Peter. He's the ultimate black shirt in my mind. Jason Peter, during his time at Nebraska, I mean, think about this resume, man. Here's this dude's resume. At Nebraska, he's 49-2. That was his record playing at Nebraska. He won 3 national titles. He's 2-time All Big 12 and consensus first-team All American in 1997. I mean, damn. It doesn't get much better than that. I've had Jason Peter on my pod one time before. It was actually one of my very first episodes all the way back in September of 2019. And if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and check the numbers again, but if I'm not mistaken, that episode is my most downloaded episode ever. So, I mean, this dude, when he gets a mic, you give him a mic, you got to listen, right? Like, that's just Jason. And when you talk to Jason, you guys know how it is, man. It's intense, it's insightful, it's super interesting, and it's also rated R. You know, I mean, this guy just lets it rip, man. This was a fun, great conversation. I was able to sit down face-to-face with Jason for about an hour, and, man, we tackled it all. And, you know, what's interesting is Jason Peter has basically been a volunteer assistant coach with Nebraska football for Scott Frost since about February. So for a handful of months now, he's been helping out in the weight room, around the guys, getting to know them, watching them work, all that good stuff. So not only does Jason have a wealth of knowledge about football in Nebraska, but he has a ton of insight on this team in particular since he's been around them for a long time. So it was really cool to pick his brain about this Husker football team and what he sees from them, and in particular that defensive line. He's been around those guys the most. So this was really, really good. So let's get to it. Here's my podcast chat with 3-time national champ, former Husker legend, Jason Peter. Enjoy. All right, here we are. It is it's a Friday afternoon. I'm with Jason Peter, and Jason played a round of golf today. You only played 9 holes. I was a little nervous when you told me you said you're going to play golf. Like, you never know. You're going to get, like, pissed off, Jason. He played terrible. You're going to get, like, good mood, Jason, because he had a couple birdies. Give me. I want your mindset before we start talking here, dude.
Yeah. When I left the stadium today, I was talking to Coach Dawson, and his son Frankie was down there, who's a big golfer. And he asked me about, how was it yesterday? And I said, automatically, I'm like, how'd you know about yesterday? Right? Like my shitty round is like all out, and people are talking about it in Lincoln, right? And I was like, it was one of those days, man, where you can feel it building, in your arms, in your hands, and you're like, I gotta break something. I gotta break, whether it's a club or I'm gonna punch this cart windshield or something, But like something has to. I gotta have a victory somewhere.
Yeah. So what got punched? Did anything get punched?
So I was it was so goddamn hot.
Yes.
That I didn't even want to.
Right. Okay.
But so. Today was better, but it's not my fault. It's always the clubs. So
of course,
went up, had Steve Friesen, who
Yep.
Former Husker. He's in charge up there, and he's going to build me some clubs that I can't miss.
That you
with,
can't. But the problem with that though, is now you got nothing to blame.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. I know,
you know what I mean?
I know. Well, but, it's just like we were talking about. At some point, by the time you drive the car off the lot, it's outdated, right? It's no different. They draft, a guy to play. The second you walk in the door, they're already working.
Think about the next dude.
Who the next guy's going to be. That's
dude.
Right. That's
so you're going to be working on that next sand wedge the second you get that new sand wedge.
My wife is like, what? What do you need 50 sand wedges for?
You don't get it. When did the golf bug bite you? When did that happen?
I can't really say I have a golf bug. I'm limited, with obviously all the injuries and stuff. Like Jay Moore. Now Jay Moore, he's the real deal.
Yes.
I mean, I want to say he just qualified for the U.S. Mid-Am or something like that, which is, super impressive. You think about a guy who spent most of his life playing football and probably basketball and then stopped, obviously, when he retired from football and started playing golf more seriously, and now easily one of the best players in the state. But he's got a great work ethic. He
takes it serious.
Oh yeah. I mean, if like what I do is like what your kid would, your 5-year-old kid would be doing compared to what he does.
Yeah.
For me, it's more. It's not even really about me. It's wanting my kids, to hopefully take up this sport, because and you'll learn, as they get older. And now mine are 12 and 10. And you think about the 12-year-old. Well, she's going into 7th grade here, so she's got 7th and 8th, and then 4 more years of high school, and then she's gone, right? I mean, you really there's only a short amount of time that you actually get to spend with them. So whether you're good at it or not, just if everybody's into it at least, and you can go out where it's not like you want to rip somebody's head off every time you go out.
You can function through a round.
But that's 4 hours that you get to spend with your kids.
That's true.
That normally you wouldn't. They'd probably be in their iPad or their iPhone or doing something like that.
Well, it gets harder to find stuff to do. I mean, I know for me with my dad, like that's become a part of like how we spend time together.
Right. Yeah.
As you get older, with your parents, like. If you don't have built-in things where you're living under their roof or holidays or stuff like that, you like have to find ways to bond with them. And golf's the perfect thing to do that for.
Absolutely. You're stuck in a cart with that person. And, Yeah. I mean, a little different than the way we do it. I don't want anybody else sitting in my cart.
Are you a solo cart guy?
Well, because when I go and it's a bad one, I'm saying things. I mean, I'm talking to myself pretty much. If I'm out there for, let's say, what's the average round, 4 hours or something, at least for 2 hours, 30 minutes, I'm motherfucking myself. I'm telling myself what a loser I am, and you're garbage, you're shit. Just give this thing up, take up something else. I mean, it would be like total. If a shrink was out there with me, they'd be like, "There's something wrong." You need to stop,
man. Yeah. That's what it is. Do you have music going in the car? Are you a music guy?
I was not originally. I was not, and I remember I'd look at like these goddamn punks out here with the music blasting.
That's how I was.
Right? Now, the second I get here, it's like the speaker gets attached to the thing.
What is that? Because I remember I was the same way. The first couple times, I was like, now I'm not Mr. Hoity-toity golfer, like, shh, quiet. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's going to back off the ball and, like, give somebody a dirty look. But, like, I initially was like, wow, well, why are we listening to music for? But now it's...
So I'm guessing that you probably learned from your dad, and that's how you were kind of brought up around it.
Right.
That generation did
they
not
don't do
have
that
speaker.
shit.
No, they don't do that shit.
No, they don't play that at all.
No.
I wanted to start. So it's Friday, August 13th here. It's the middle of camp. Is this about the time when fights start happening in camp? Like, is this the fight time? Like, do people get irritated this time of camp?
Yeah. There was a little something down there today. We had a little mix-up. But, that's something that we've kind of been hoping there's been more of. To our not surprised, but I think, to our pleasure, we've seen, a lot more of that. And it's more, I think, with, the guys, they want to succeed,
right.
And they are tired of losing.
It depends on why you're fighting.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's usually just because guys are competing,
yes.
At such a high level. And the second that maybe they get beat on this play or beat on that play, right, automatically they're starting to think, oh, man, like, I hope my job, or was that bad enough, that I'm going to get demoted? So that's a great indication of it actually, these guys, they care about it.
Yeah,
it means
sure.
something to them, If you didn't have any sort of emotion or fire in your belly, that's the bigger issue, I think. But going back to winter conditioning even, and some of the guys that we kind of have focused on in terms of who we think can be real good leaders, and guys that are willing to get in other guys' faces. I mean, you know how it goes,
yep.
and seeing them start to kind of exert themselves and do some of those things that, Jay and myself have spent time with them trying to explain to them, without, hey, well, this is how it was back when we, that.
Don't want to go too much.
I know a lot of, the Twitter people and everything would like to think that that's, Jay and I are going down there wearing our, 1997 travel, sweatsuit.
Yeah. Right.
And, but that's total opposite of, we don't ever bring it up unless they're asking questions about it. And, but, it's pretty much just taking all of the experiences that we've had, the stuff that we've gone through, and just trying to pick your times and your places where some of that info can be beneficial to them. You just don't want to pound it. Can't be every time me yelling on the sideline, Ty, do this. Casey, do this. It's like, dude, would someone tell that old dude to shut up?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you don't want it to be like that. And also, they have coaches down there that are telling them, that stuff to do. We don't ever want to step on Coach Dawson's toes or Coach Tuoti's toes. And, those guys have been absolutely, fantastic with this whole thing, because people always ask me about that, and I'm like, a lot of guys probably would not have been super comfortable with that. With, somebody, like myself coming down there and constantly with you and your guys, throughout practice, because I spend most of my time with the defensive line. I'll go with the offense every now and then and spend some time with the linemen, but, linemen are a little different. So my experience is, generally they're going to connect more with, the guys on defense. But, they Coach T, he would want me down there more, that's the way that he has approached it. Like, he wants me down there so that, I know everything that's going on, all the defensive call, everything, so that I can be another set of eyes, just not with technique, but with, how they're running it within the scheme and things, because the way that Scott wants it is similar, to how we ran it in terms with the numbers, and guys getting reps and stuff. And, one coach can't be in, 2-3 places at the same time. So it's good to have guys that know what they're doing, as opposed to like people that watch like the TV version of, on Saturday, and then they get on Twitter and they're like, oh my God, that defensive end, how the hell did you, like, dude, do you know what the call was? Do you know what they're asking him to do?
He did his job, actually.
Right, so you just need to shut your mouth, because you don't know what, it may look bad to your eyes, but that's not even the guy that, created, you know,
Right.
the
long
bust. Touchdown or the
right.
bust, right?
Hey guys, with sports betting season in full force with NFL and college football fast approaching, you need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS. You may already know this, but BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. Go to BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses. You can join now or call 800-69-BET-US. That is 800-MY-BET-US. You receive a 125% sign-up bonus by using the bonus code NICKBAH. That's my code, my name, Nick Bahe, Nickbahe. BetUS is known as America's favorite sportsbook for a lot of reasons. BetUS has all your favorite football games with team and player props and loads of NFL futures and NFL odds up already. You can also bet UFC matches, props, Major League Baseball, plus live betting on almost every sport, including golf. The online casino has hundreds of games. The race book has all your horse tracks. They have every bet type imaginable, and the sharp BetUS mobile platform is easy with full betting options. So follow my lead. Get your phone, online, and social sports betting partner with integrity and longevity like I did. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS. Well, this is good because I was gonna. So for people that don't know, you're down there on a volunteer basis.
Yeah. Yep.
It sounds like, because I was gonna ask you kind of like, okay, what's your role? How much are you around? Like, it sounds like you've been pretty intimately involved. What is? Because, you know, you see the results on Saturdays and you maybe conjure up an image of, okay, what's going on down there? Yeah. And then you get down there and those two things may not line up, right? Like, what has stood out to you with getting down there, getting with Ty and Casey and Ben Stilley and those guys? Like, what has jumped out at you with those guys?
Well, to start with, I think that we are finally at a point where we have guys that they're big enough, they're fast enough, they're strong enough. They have all of those things that when you are creating a team and, you know, you go down each position group and you're like, okay, well, this is kind of what we want this guy to look like and this position to look like this and that. And I think, you know, obviously a coach always, you know, would love for a player to be a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, but we've got a team. I feel like there are horses in those stalls now that they can compete with anybody that's on their schedule. You know,
which wasn't the case when
it was not
Scott
the case.
Got here,
right? And you know, guys like Ty Robinson, even you know, like Jordan Riley, the transfer in from Carolina, has really you know, stepped his game up here coming into to fall. And you know, you just never know nowadays with these kids, because it's sometimes you don't know what they're thinking. Like it's different. Like, you know, if we were around each other and you know, spent a whole, you know, shitload of time together and was involved in practice every day, generally, I think, you know, I'd have a pretty good feeling as to kind of which buttons to push on you and stuff like that. With these guys, it's different, you know, like for so long they've just grown up, you know, looking down at their iPhones and really communicating with each other kind of through that, like commenting on Twitter stuff or you know, Instagram or whatever. And so you know, we've been trying to get those heads up more, right? And be able to look guys in the eye. Because that's when it means something, right? Like that's, you know, it's one thing if you receive a text from somebody saying, hey, you know, I wish you would have played that 3 technique a little bit better on that play, right? But like when this dude's looking at you in the eye and been like, what the hell happened on that play? You know, like you were supposed to be there. Now it starts to take on a little bit more meaning. And
you're seeing some of that?
Oh yeah. They're good.
I mean, give me a guy. Is there someone that's jumped out at you? Is like, man, this dude has really got a voice, and he's really embracing it.
Well, you know, the guys that I am hoping are at the end of the day, you know, you know, you have guys like you know, Boogie Daniels. You know, he's been a presence down there. He, you know, when he speaks, guys listen.
Okay.
Obviously, Ty Robinson is a guy who I'm always trying to push to be more, because I tell them all the time, I'm like, look, it just takes on different meaning when you stand in front of a group and say, this is what we need to do, or that wasn't good enough, or do it again, as opposed to, And, Cam Taylor, Britt he's the real deal. Like, the guy can do pretty much everything. But, like, it takes on a little different meaning than if one of those guys tries to get in front of, the big guys.
Right.
Because it's a whole different
position.
world down
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
right. I mean, like, I appreciate everything that those guys do, but it's different when you got, 3'6'5", 330-pounders that are leaning on you and doing all that stuff. Like, it's just a different sort of beast down there. So, when the skinny guys start barking at you, it's kind of like, dude, you need to get out of my face before, you know what I mean?
Right,
We're going to have a problem here.
Sure.
So, it's, but, those guys, Cam Jurgens he's a stud. I mean, so much has been made of the snap thing, obviously. And it was, got to a point where it was unacceptable. We're big time college football program. We should be able to get the ball back to the quarterback. But people also got to remember, this dude's never played offensive line in his life, let alone center.
It's crazy.
Like, center is the toughest position to play, especially nowadays, because these guys, I mean, a lot of places, centers are actually calling the cadence. They're the ones going blue 40. You know what I mean? Like,
stuff,
yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But even if you're not doing it that way, you're still a guy that when you break the huddle, you're coming out and you're saying, 54 is the mic, and we're doing this and that, or you're gonna, run it the opposite way and stuff like. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that those guys are doing, and I think just being the center, being the guy who, you constantly every play you're touching the football, you're the guy who kind of leads the rest of the guys out of the huddle. I think you're just naturally, like quarterback, you're in a position of, like, not authority, but you guys are used to hearing your voice.
Question.
So
right.
Cam is a guy that I'm constantly pushing to get out of his, like, they all have their comfort zones and stuff that makes them uncomfortable. And like I said before, that stuff, kind of that human, peer-to-peer sort of interaction is difficult for them. But I constantly have to remind them, I'm like, dude, if you guys think like that we showed up and it was just like second nature for us, that's not how it was.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to ask you what that process was like for you.
You came in and you were like every other freshman. You were just trying not to get screamed at and chewed at, or having Coach McBride put up a play of you running scout team and getting your ass kicked or not running after the football or something. And he absolutely would do that. I think every freshman actually, could use some.
You think you play hard in high school, and then
So, oh Jesus, man, what were we talking about?
No, it's about the process for you of being, how you showed up and wasn't second nature for you guys.
You come in and you just kind of, for me, Trev Alberts was the man, when I came, and he's obviously a good guy, a really great example, a role model to if you're a young guy and needing someone to look at as to the right way to do things. Trev, smart dude, good-looking guy, personable, super athletic and talented, so. From that standpoint, you just kind of watch and you listen. Like, we didn't do a lot of talking, but and in that regard, it's different. These freshmen, they come in much more accepted right away, right? And I don't know if that's necessarily because freshmen just maybe tend to be able to get on the field quicker now because they're a little more physically prepared.
Yep.
They all have their private trainers and shit, coming throughout high school. So in that regard, they may be a little bit more prepared physically. But mentally is still, it's, I don't care what year it is. It's still when you go from lining up and seeing, kids across from you playing defensive line in high school that, just starting to get hair under their pits, and hair on their balls. Compared to, 5 giants coming out with like full beards and Brendan Styes and shit, 6'5", 315, 320, like grown ass men. And it's like, oh man, this is a
different deal,
man. You are not in Kansas anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's a real deal. And, but it seems like nowadays it's you kind of, I think they only do what they know, right? So they only kind of treat others as how maybe they were treated. And not a lot of them probably had coaches that, were really about chewing their ass or real disciplinarians. I mean, let's face it, high school, a lot of these guys, they were in probably programs where the coach was like, okay, you're 6'5" and you're 290 pounds, and that guy you're playing against is 5'8", 163. Just murder him every play. I don't care how you do it.
Technique be damned, just maul him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get here and you learn it's a whole different story.
Right.
But yeah, you just you were quiet when you came in, and you listened. You didn't talk unless, they said you could talk. Right. You just kept storing stuff in the bank, in the vault, like you're, okay, Kevin Raymakers did it like this, and Christian did it like this, and Terry Keneally did it like this, and Trev did it like that. And then one day it's like, it's your turn.
Yep.
And you just kind of use all that stuff and it just, it just becomes more and more more comfortable. We weren't in a rush to get out of here, like, we knew this was like the time of our lives, like we didn't want to go anywhere. I mean, Grant and I had that opportunity to leave, and it was like, what? Why the hell would we leave? Like, I wish NIL was going on back then. We could have made a little bit of cheese back then, but it's so. I constantly have to remind myself too, especially like when dealing with Ty, because he's young, he is. Like, I think he realistically, like, if you didn't count COVID year and everything, he would be coming into, I think, his redshirt sophomore year. Mm-hmm. But with COVID, he's basically a redshirt freshman now again.
It's incredible.
Like, he's been like a 3-year starter.
I know.
And he's still got 4 years, I think, to play pretty much. Right. How that happens, I don't even know. But, and you just think, like, okay, like, in a normal world, would I be pushing a guy like this to kind of take on that sort of role? Probably not. He's still trying to get his fittings, and, he's trying to still, figure out how he fits and everything like that. But this is a different time. We have to do things maybe that generally we normally wouldn't do. But the situation that this program is in,
they need him.
They got to win. They need leaders to start
Right.
stepping up, because I am a firm believer that has been a big part of the lack of success. Not having that guy or guys that push you over the hill. Do you know? Like, sometimes you just need that kick in the ass.
Tell me if this story is. Sometimes you hear these stories. I don't even know where. I can't remember the first time I heard this story. Right. Was there a day at conditioning when you were your senior year that some dude was loafing it?
Yeah.
That you went and laid him out in sweats?
So T.O. tells the story all the time, right? I vaguely remember it a little bit. But, like, he had called me over to talk. I think maybe I missed a class or something. Yeah. He calls me over, and he's, Jason, I expect more out of you. You need to be going to class whenever they're holding class.
Yeah.
But coach, it's bowling or something. Something. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this. I think it was an offensive lineman, and we're in summer. In the stadium, the steam's coming off the field, hot as could be. But I can see him out of the corner of my eye, and I can see like he's loafing. So I can only imagine what T.O. is thinking, because here we're like in the middle of a conversation, and then out of nowhere, I just bolt, right? And I full speed, and I mean, I level this dude like a knockout shot. There was no form tackling. It was just laying the shoulder right into him. And I mean, his head hit before his feet did. And coach was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Jason, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Coach, he was loafing." I'm like, "Oh,
Jason."
Yeah, so he likes to
I never knew. That's one of those stories that, I don't know if you have those stories. I can't remember the first time I heard that, and I thought, like, I believed it, but I'm like, maybe this is a story that somehow is, like, not true.
No,
but that goes to show you, though, like, the kind of the full circle of what we're talking about, though.
Well, look, Grant and I were coming back to play
win
our
a
senior year,
championship.
to win a championship, not to win games. We were coming back to win a national championship, and that was not good enough, And
you're not leveling him. You're leveling him, but you're also leveling everybody else.
Yeah, because anybody. You see a guy, this is what's going to happen if you loaf.
Right.
Sometimes you got to threaten guys a little bit,
yes.
Especially young
fear,
guys.
Fear is not a bad thing.
No,
man.
everybody talks about fear like it's, fear is a great motivator, man.
I totally agree.
There's the fear that today someone's going to have your number, somebody's going to be better than you, stronger than you, faster than you, all that stuff. And it's like.
Or even just the fear of, if I don't do my job, Jason's going to fucking lay me out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's the fear of that.
I mean, we never wanted to miss practice because there was always the fear that the guy who was behind you, these weren't a bunch of schmoes that they were recruiting. When we started winning championships, there were good players that were coming and guys that were capable and guys that ultimately went and played in the NFL. Well, if coach was like, hey, jump in there, they're not going to be like, Jason, is it okay if I jump in there?
They're going to take your job.
Right. They're going to take it in a heartbeat. They don't care if you were an All-American or,
The Nick Bahe Podcast is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors, and I want to talk to you guys about energy efficiency. And if you go into Pella's website right now, you look at it, and how about this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of windows or doors. By Pella, won the Energy Star 2020 Most Energy Efficient Award. That's big-time stuff right there. And they achieved that in a couple of ways. They got insulated glass, which slows the heat transfer, keeping your home at a more comfortable temperature. They got types of low-E glass, which is a glass coating that has been optimized for your climate. They got triple pane glass, which you can upgrade to for increased insulating airspace. And within all of that, one of the keys is proper installation, which is key for window and doors to perform at their best. And the Pella experts are excellent at that. Bottom line, energy efficiency matters and making your home more comfortable. And Pella windows and doors are at the top of the line when it comes to energy efficiency. Check them out online, PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com.
So
does being around, I was curious with being back around in, you're on the field, you're in the weight room. Does it awaken that?
Oh man,
that
I love
beast,
it.
Is that beast caged up?
No. I thought it was, but then it's like I start before I'd go out onto the field, I'd be on the sidelines and kind of doing that little boxers, hot, and then all of a sudden, the start of camp, we were kind of getting into stretching, and all of a sudden I caught myself, and I was doing little boxer, jogging around, and I was like, oh man, I'm like.
So it came back. It came right away.
Yeah.
Do you like that
just
feeling?
Being in it, and then walking in the locker room after practice, and there's that smell and everything. It's the pads and all that stuff, and it's awesome. I love it. I feel like it's kind of rejuvenated myself.
That's great.
Yeah. The body sometimes doesn't.
I was gonna say
doesn't follow where the mind thinks it is,
Sure.
but it's all good. Yeah, I love being around those guys, and even if can help just a little bit, then I feel like it's worth it. But I hope that we're doing more than just a little bit. Sometimes we get so caught up, right? Because everything now is out for people, to read this book or that book on coaching, right? And it's so much about X's and O's and who's running this offense and Chip Kelly's doing this and Belichick's doing that. And sometimes you gotta bring yourself back and remember there's something that's pumping inside that is a big deciding factor as to how a game plays out or how a season plays out, and that mentality and that fire, that's a big part of especially football, and that's not really something that, the coaches are having, okay, today we're going to work on, our...
How to be...
how to be a
badass. It doesn't work like that, right?
No. So...
do you feel like though, because it's funny, last time you and I did a podcast together, it was the week of the Colorado game in 2019.
Yep.
A lot has happened since then.
Yeah. God, they should have won that game.
They should have won that game. That one really hurt. They're up 17-0 at half. It's just frustrating, right? But all the stuff that has inevitably led Nebraska to be on the wrong side of the scoreboard, What do you attribute to that? Do you attribute it to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about? A lot of the intangible things?
Yeah, I think there's still like an element. Like I'll for example, today, and it's not like I'm revealing any secrets or anything. It's just it's part of it. We had the Big Ten officials came in and we had a scrimmage today, and there was a receiver and a defensive back where the receiver caught the ball, and I think it was for a first down. So there's some frustration there, where it was an opportunity to get off the field, and they converted. And then, the D-back's getting slow off of the receiver, getting up, and then he starts to, kind of kick, to get him off of him. And before you know it, one of them's grabbing a face mask, and the yellow flag's coming out. And this was a big, deal. Like, Scott needs them to be disciplined. Like, you can't let your emotions, we want this fire, yes, but you also have to know, and it's the thing that, like, Coach Osborne tells the story all the time, and it goes back to that 94 Orange Bowl where we're playing Miami, and Casey Jones, their center, who also was very cut from the same cloth as Christian, high energy motor. And it was a huge play in the game where I believe the play maybe went for a first down or something, and they converted, and the drive was going to continue. And I think the clock was run. We were getting low on time, and Casey Jones took a shot at Christian when he was down, trying to get up off the ground. And, the one player that everyone thought would react to it, yes, right, just put his hands up, and sure as shit, the yellow flag came out, and it was a huge part in that game. Yeah. And it's like, that's, you got to know, especially, even though we're trying to promote this fire and this attitude, you also have to know and be disciplined enough to know that, hey, when this thing is for real, and there are those guys in black and white out there, you cannot let your emotions or your pride or your ego get in the way, because ultimately it's a selfish decision or move that you make when you end up hitting somebody. And you got to know, too, it's always the second guy that gets caught, right? Always the second guy that gets caught. But you just can't do that. You can't. It's basically saying F you to all your teammates. Right. I don't care about how hard you.
My pride in the moment supersedes all of you.
Yeah, and you can't have that. You can't be a winning program with that sort of mentality. So,
coaching moment, teaching moment. There, though,
absolutely. And that was something that Scott stressed. When talking to them afterwards, like we're at a point now. This is year 4, where that shit's got to be over with. That's got to be done. There's no time for any of that bullshit. Like you guys, you talk about not wanting to lose anymore. You talk about how you want to do this and you want to do that, but do your actions follow your words? Because that at the end of the day, talk's cheap. And I'm always reminding guys down there. I'll be like, what you put on Twitter, no, we don't need to talk about what we're going to do in this season, or you don't need to tell the NFL, just wait for me, the best way is you just keep your mouth shut and you just kick everybody's ass out on the field and let the story write itself. When you put something out there, now it's just, you got to actually think about backing that up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I get everybody wants a little bit of prime time in him and Deion, but you know what? Like, Deion's like a once in a lifetime.
He's arguably the greatest corner ever. You know what I mean? One of the greatest football players to ever live.
Right.
I mean, it's different when he runs his mouth.
You are not prime time. When you make it to the league and you sign, $100 million contracts, then you can act that way. But right now, it is team. And when you do something dumb like that ultimately costs the team, it's the biggest slap in the face. But I feel like
Scott could now. The good thing now is young. This sounds like a cliche, but young players, it's it's easy to be like, it's just one penalty. Yeah, it's just, as one busted
Right.
assignment. Get off my ass, man.
Right.
Like, I think the thing now that I'd imagine Scott can do is he can point at all these things and be like, guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
this directly leads to losing.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes it.
One of the first team meetings that we had this year, he had, a bunch of different stats up there that said, where we ranked in terms of, penalties or this or that, and showed, the direct correlation to, the wins and losses and stuff like that. And
I'm not being an asshole saying this to you. This impacts winning and losing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're understanding of it now. They're starting to understand that you can't do that stuff. But that also is a product of not having great team leadership. Because it's one thing when your coach is telling you after practice or yelling at you. It's another thing when your peers are on you about that stuff, right?
Yes.
Because okay, now this guy, that is my teammate. He's maybe a year or two older than me. He's telling me, I'm selfish and stuff like that. Now that stings a little bit more, than when a coach is saying it. So I really think that I don't want to say the losing was good for us, but I think it got us to a point where I think that they are fed up with it. Now, they also have to follow that, it's
that
not
talk.
It's not just being fed up with it is not good enough. That's not going to make you into a 10-win team or whatever. You have to follow it up with actions. But everything that we've seen is they're working hard, man. There's not many times where Scott or if being just a coach or whatever would say we need to start this practice over. Or we need to there haven't been many moments like that. These guys are pretty dialed in. And the effort has been really good.
Right.
All fall camp, winter conditioning was great. But it's good to see guys, that have really put in a lot of effort, start to have some success out there on the field. But there's just there's a lot of stuff that they don't know. I think there's so much pressure on them nowadays. There really is. They don't get a second to breathe. And you can tell them all you want, stay off of this, stay off of that, don't read that, don't read this. They're still kids, they're 18, 19, whatever. They're still going to pick up their phone. They're going to check Twitter. They're going to see what, Husker Bob 34521 is saying about him.
Right.
And he'll actually give,
energy
value
to
what this clown is saying, even though he's never played it down in his life.
No doubt.
But I do. I think Scott, they've made a point of recruiting kids that are willing to work hard, kids that want to win, and I really believe that what they need is they need to just put 3-4 wins together. And you think about back to all of the seasons since Scott's been here, there's always been something, right? Whether it was the lightning storm, right? Where, okay, that's the first win of the year, right? That gets the ball rolling, or, COVID happens and all, there's always been something to and yeah, all the other teams have had to play in the same
doubt, but you're right, though.
But,
that's not,
it's tough for a new coach coming in and, there's a reason why they all schedule those games, at the start of the year. Okay, we're going to build their confidence up, right? And then they have, boom, one big non-conference, and then you get into the conference play. But, yeah, there's a reason why they schedule those kind of powder puff,
That's what the one thing that Barrett has been consistently telling me on the record, off the record, all this stuff. Anytime we're talking, he's like, Nick, man, we got to get some momentum.
Yeah.
We got to get some confidence. These guys got to see it translate on Saturday to start to really kind of snowball it. And it's crazy. Since Frost has gotten here, they haven't been able to win 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
And it's always, you're right, there's always just been something. And listen, people might listen to this goes, well, you got to overcome that. I get it.
Yeah.
But because it's funny. Bo Root and I have done this series, Husker Classic Recaps. We watch an old game and we record a podcast about it. And I think of the 97 Missouri game.
Right.
It was just that was almost a program culture win, where it was just it didn't matter. You guys were going to find a way to win that game.
And you think about, we were the most dominant team in college football over those last 4 or 5 years, but we still needed a break to go our way.
Yes.
Do you know?
Right.
and I'm not, singing a sad song here, but like Scott hasn't had anything.
Zero. Name
right.
Well, let's flip it. Name one break he's got.
I can't. I honestly, I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can't either.
They've all kind of bounced the other way.
Every moment that could go in Frost way, in Nebraska way, has gone the other direction.
I know.
But you're right. That game, you get a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
But I also think on top of that, you guys had a mentality. You could just feel it. Rewatching that game where it was like, Scott came out. He was going to lead those guys back down the field. You're going to score, and then defensively, guys are like, okay, it's over.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And a part of that is you guys thought like that.
Yeah.
These guys don't.
Right. Yeah.
And the only way to change that mindset is just stack wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Nick Bahe Podcast is brought to you by my good friends at White Castle Roofing. And I've owned 2 homes in my life, one in Omaha and now one in Lincoln. And both times, when I had some damage to my roof, White Castle Roofing was who I trusted with the job. I had some hail damage to my roof in Omaha. White Castle took care of that and did a great job. And then I had a leak with my skylight in Lincoln. My guy Ben from White Castle was able to come over, take a look at things, get the pieces needed to fix it, communicated every step, and boom, the crew was over and knocked it out quickly. Done and done. The crew was amazing, man. They're fast, they're efficient, they were awesome. Cleanup was a top priority, and most importantly, they did a fantastic job. You can't trust just anyone with your roof. And trust me, you can trust White Castle Roofing. Check them out online, whitecastleroofing.com. That's whitecastleroofing.com. White Castle Roofing, built with trust, proven by time.
It's huge. I mean, anytime like you start to put together a few wins and it's like the confidence goes through the roof, man.
Yeah.
Through the roof.
Through the roof. That's what it is.
So that's big. We're kind of hoping here that we go into Oklahoma undefeated, I think. But, even talking about that, like try to just keep them present in the day.
No doubt.
Like, don't start thinking about that. Don't start thinking even about Illinois at this point. Right now, we're just worrying about ourselves, right? And being the best possible version of us as a team as possible. And just, worry about getting better every single day, every single practice. Like you really got to break it down in its simplest form,
right.
And I think it just makes it easier when you start looking down the road and, we can maybe win this many games or, what's going to happen in Oklahoma. Like, we got tough game. Like, Illinois, you think Bielema is just going to roll over? No, he's going to come out. He's going to, he's going to want to win that game.
No doubt.
He's won plenty of games
and
in his
fans.
lifetime.
Like, think about these dudes. Some of these dudes haven't played in front of fans in 2 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you're on the road, a
Yeah.
little bit of a crowd. You give up a 3rd and 2. They start rolling. Those kinds of things are going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right out the gates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was thinking about, because we even talked before we turned on the mics about giving the defense is ahead of the offense right now. I don't think that's breaking news.
Nope.
Can Scott alter how he does things to allow the defense to lead the way to give them a chance to win the game? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's something that'll be interesting to watch this year, because the thing that I felt bad for the defense last year was, like, whether it was special teams or offense just kind of struggling. Right. The D was, man, they were constantly put in tough spots, because we've even said, you've told the guys, like, listen, man, you guys got to lead the way. Yeah. That'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
Yeah, and I do, like, you're not lying about defense being ahead, but they should be ahead at this point. And defense just, whether it's 1997 or today, usually when you get into training camp, defense is usually ahead. Yeah. But this year needs to be a year where these guys on defense, they recognize this is an awesome opportunity that they have. Places like Ohio State, Michigan or wherever, the guys that had options of coming back, most of them, especially at Ohio State, they left. They're in the NFL, right? So they got a lot of new faces that they got to break in. We don't, right? You got to use that to your advantage, right? You guys have better understanding of what your coach is asking you to do. You've been in these battles before. A lot of those players have not, even though maybe they're a higher 4 or 5 star out of high school. That don't mean shit anymore, right?
No.
That stuff's gone. That's over with, right? So just forget about that. But this is an opportunity where, you put most of the weight on your shoulders here, right? And we want it on our shoulders, right? That's the way we have to recognize that this thing's going to go as we go. And, it's a great opportunity that they have. I really like, when they were all kind of deciding whether or not they were going to go
pretty cool,
or come.
and pretty telling, too.
Yep. And they love Chins. He's a matter of time before he gets his own job. He's the real deal. Seeing the way he can interact with kids too, and even just when you're around him, in like a social setting or something, he gets it. He knows how to play the roles, kind of the stuff say that Bahe had a hard time doing. Chins, it's like second nature for him.
Right.
But he's a great coach, and the guys they love playing for him the way that we love playing for Charlie, and
right.
That's something that you got to have as a coordinator. Your guys gotta want to go out and there's got to be a part of him that wants to play hard for you. You know, don't want to let you down.
I know. I was going to ask you. I forgot this. We're talking about the defense. Getting a pass rush, that's the one thing. Like when you go down like the defense, like secondary, pretty fucking good. Linebackers, Reimer, Henrich, pretty fucking good. Like the D line, pretty good against the run. Big dudes, a lot of experience. So one thing is getting after the quarterback. How do you do it? Like how does it?
It's funny because I was talked to the scout from San Francisco today for a while, and that's exactly what we were talking about because. We were talking about like when they had Alden Smith out there and he was just wrecking havoc on quarterbacks. Nobody could block him. And, now they got Bosa out there. And I was talking about like how the mentality that Grant and I used to have going into games was like that we can stop this offense like by ourselves. Like we can stop all the run plays, and when they're throwing, one of us will get there. Like we knew we needed everybody else, but the mentality was, shit, we'll do this by ourselves if we need to. But being able to get to the quarterback, boy, it can hide a lot of deficiencies. It can make corners look like Dion back there. Do you know what I mean? Like those two positions go hand in hand.
Right.
Do we still need, pass rushers? Yeah. I would say looking at the defense, that's the one area that we probably...
And that's not breaking news necessarily.
Right.
It's not disparaging anybody.
Right. So, until we have, like a Javon Curse walking through the door or somebody, that is kind of sure bet that when we got to get home, he's going to get there. Until we get a guy like that, Chins is going to have to fabricate some stuff, and we're going to have to, run some games and stuff, whether or not we can get home with just, being in base. And we run a lot of sub pretty much in the four-man front with the amount of spread that offenses do. So you still have your kind of, your rush ends, and then you got your two interior guys, but they play it a little bit differently than say Charlie did. The value, there's a reason why those guys get paid a ton of money.
What they do.
Yeah.
This is, I never rushed the quarterback. I know that surprises you, but help me out with where experience can help, because I know the only thing I can relate it to is trapping the post in basketball.
Yep.
You got to know, that's basically blitzing a guy with the ball. You got to know, the other three guys got to know how to rotate, who's getting what, all those things.
Yep.
And the older you get, the more you learn, the better you get at it. Is this where experience, where you can dial up some shit because guys in the back seven or whatever know how to experience with it?
I tell them all the time, like when we're doing one-on-ones or something, and I'll be talking to the kids, and I'll say, listen, I said, Yeah, we're rushing the player on, we're rushing the passer, say, on play 1 and play 2, but that isn't necessarily where we're thinking about sack. We're thinking about setting him, that offensive tackle, up on play 1 to play 2, right? So maybe the first 2 play of the games, like I always, no matter what, when I was in Carolina, first 2 rushes of the game, I was just going speed. I was going to go speed because the third rush of the game, you know what that guy, naturally those offensive linemen, they've all got lazy bones in them, right? He's going to cheat. He's going to think all this guy does is speed, right? So he's going to cheat. He'll maybe jump outside a little bit, and that's boom. That's when you can come underneath him, or that's when you go speed to power. Do you know? Right. Like, it's not necessarily all the time about rushing the play that you're about to play. You got to set them up. I say with the interior guys, I said, right now, yeah, maybe we're just doing one-on-ones, but at some point we'll do like full games, like defensive line versus offensive line. And there are times where you want to say take a look out at the defensive end, right after the ball snaps. You kind of give one of these, yep. Right? That offensive guard, right? He's thinking, okay, if the defense tackle's looking out at the end, that must mean he's waiting for him to come, the right. Defensive end to come down. So the guard, naturally, he's going to turn, but there's no game on, right? You're playing head games with them, right? So you fake look out there, boom, and then you just come, go inside. Like, you got to constantly, you're just trying to outthink them, outsmart them. Yeah, is there a time where it's just you got to outpower them and all that stuff? Absolutely. But this game now, everybody is so talented, and the guys have, they've been studying offensive line play or defensive line. They all have their private coaches and this and that, and it's like you just have to. You got to know the tricks of the trade too, And it's like I don't really think. I think back to when I was in college, everything we kind of learned, was from Charlie. You kind of, from watching film, I think back, man, if Danny Noonan or Neil Smith was hanging around and telling me all these pass rush move, tips and stuff, stuff, how, my ass needs to be up more, like a sprinter, a lot of them will get in stances and their ass will be down. It's no, dude, we're going. We are going. Look, get that ass. When you see Usain Bolt run, you think his ass is down? No, his ass is up and he was firing out, and it's little stuff that sometimes you have to remind yourself, well, it might not be something that a coach makes a big deal or a coaching lesson out of it in the first 2 weeks of camp or something. He may only approach it when he sees it's become so bad on film. Well, let's, I think having me down there is a chance where maybe I can see some of that stuff that Tony isn't necessarily focusing in on at that time. And, I just kind of will grab a kid here and there. I don't ever want to take him away from what Tony's doing. But, hey, think about doing it like this, or think, about this. And when you're going to long scoop inside, like the other day, one of them was running like a slant inside. And he just kind of, out of his stance, he just kind of ripped across the guard's face. And I'm like, the way that we want to do it is we want to grab, with our left hand so that then when we rip through, we've got something to counter our weight on. If we just kind of rip across his face,
not as powerful.
Our left, our other hand is just dangling out there, for that offensive lineman to knock us off our path is real easy. I said, but if we've got hold of a shoulder, or if a guard is pulling, I said, just grab onto the back of his jersey. I go, he's going to pull you to where the ball is going.
True.
These are things that you don't really spend time coaching a kid on. It's just little tricks of the trade, that
just come from time and experience.
Yep.
And that's what it is. And so that's where I'm I already thought the defense is taking big steps, but I'm really excited to see what this group can do just from acquiring that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think they're. And I think they're going to be good. I want them to feel some kind of pressure that, hey,
that's good.
Yeah, it's on us. They can't score, they can't win. That sort of mentality. And I think they're strong. They've got good players at every level.
Right.
You know, Cam obviously in the back. I really like, Heinrich.
Yeah.
I think he's a stud. He just
Yep.
needs to stay healthy. I'm constantly trying to get him to be, you're the middle linebacker, dude. You are the guy out there. Like, when you're calling the Sam, it's like, not,
Bark it.
It's
Own
not
it.
like,
Yeah.
tight end. It's like, tight end left.
Yeah,
I want you screaming at
Right.
these dudes. You
Right.
know, like that stuff. It's like, man, Nick's going off right now. You know,
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, what I think hopefully Jay and I are getting across to them down there, that they're, even the things that you think are small, like irrelevant, they're not. Like they have impact. You just got to figure out how and when to use them, and what situation, what environment. And that's the I tell you, there hasn't been one case of like a kid not like open to hear what we have to say. Like they really, I believe, are tired of the bullshit.
But
and they
also,
wanna win.
again, you almost need to get a T-shirt. You wouldn't wear it, but someone else needs to wear it. 49-2 at Nebraska, 3 national championships, 2-time All Big 12, first-team consensus All American. Like, Ty Robinson would be stupid to not listen to you. To not, you know what I mean? Like, and yeah, where he wasn't even born when you were rocking this shit. But like, it doesn't matter. The Nick Bahe Podcast is brought to you by my good friends at Runza. Everybody that knows my athletic background, I was a quarterback in high school. But I believe in establishing the run game. And even more than that, I believe in establishing the Runza game. That's an original Runza cheeseburger, some onion rings double dipped in a homemade batter, little bit of a pop to top it off. In football, you establish a run. But at lunch, you establish the Runza. It's just that simple. So get out to Runza today and establish the Runza game, or check out the delicious salads. You got the chicken bacon ranch salad, sweet berry chicken salad, and my personal favorite, the Southwest chicken salad. You got to get out to Runza, establish a Runza game, or get a salad. Either way, you are going to leave satisfied. Runza makes it all better. When I was at Kansas, when Danny Manning put me through an individual workout and said, Nick, no, do this coming off a pin down, so it doesn't surprise me. These dudes should listen to you and Jay. You know?
I mean, shit, I didn't even really follow college football growing up in New Jersey. I mean, the Rutgers was up the street, and they were horrible. So nobody went. Like, you had bigger crowds at high school games, but like that East Coast, that kind of state, the New York and Jersey and Connecticut and stuff like that. Like, that's all about like Giants and Jets and NFL, like college football. Penn State is kind of the closest thing, but it's more NFL. So I didn't know who Danny Noonan or Neil Smith were when I was growing up. Shit, I didn't even know, like, when I started to get recruited, who was even good or not.
Sure.
I only knew from a little bit from what Christian had in terms of recruiting, just because it wasn't a big deal, college football back there. But I mean, once I got here, and that's been something that Scott is
Seems like he's doing a good job of that.
He wants the guys to know the guys that came before him.
Sure.
Like the history of the program, the school, the guys that played your own position. It's important, and that's the same stuff that Charlie did. And I think it's huge to know, kind of. Coach McBride always used to remind us of who we're playing for, and like playing for yourself was never on the list. It was always about playing for the guys that came before. The fans, playing for each other. And that's something I think that all coaches, whether here, Alabama, or wherever, I think most of the kids that they get nowadays, usually, there's a big part of it where they play for themselves. Like, I'm playing to get to the league, or I'm playing, to make a ton of money, or something.
The only thing I worry about with NIL a little bit, it's
tricky, man.
It's a really tricky deal where you're starting to think more about me instead of we.
But at least the NCAA has come out, and been, really good about telling the ground rules and shit.
That's
what an embarrassment. Seriously.
Because I think, I'm with you, yeah, it would have been nice in 1997 for NIL, for you guys, you and Grant and everybody would have gotten a lot of money. I think, all that stuff, I'm not anti-NIL, but, I mean, we got to get some sort of plan together on this.
I told, my guys, the D-line, I was like, this is not the money that we are chasing. First off, we shouldn't be chasing anything other than winning right now, because if we win and we take care of business, the money that will come your way will be a lot more than what you can get in NIL. Do you know? Now, am I against them making some money to have, some extra spending cash? No, not at all. There's a lot of money being made off of these kids out there, and they, certainly,
absolutely,
there's nothing wrong with them making some money, but the NCAA just kind of was like, okay, go. Right? There's no boundaries.
Right. July 1st, the gate just opened, and it's like.
Yeah, and now you open the door, agents are coming in and being involved and all that stuff. And, you got to think, agents were, almost don't ever get seen talking to an agent or, but it's different world down there now. And I just feel like they're going to have to sort of, I don't know how they're going to do it, because there has to be some rules being broken. That's my thing.
I'm not again, like we keep saying, I'm totally all for dudes getting paid. It's fine, but we got to have some semblance of my concern this whole time has been every league has a salary cap, has the same general parameters on how you're building and acquiring a roster, right? It feels like college football and college basketball, even the stuff that happened at BYU. I don't know if you saw that. That stuff's great, right? I love. I mean, it's great, but at the same time, you're like, okay, well, in effect, they now got 125 scholarship dudes. And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer with this stuff, but
and that granola bar company or whoever has said that they're only going to do it this year, but really, who's to say that? Business doesn't turn out great for them, and they're saying, we're going to do it again next year. So what? That's another year then. So, basically BYU has taken the scholarship limit from 85 or whatever it is to, 130 or 140.
And that's fine. I mean, I just think there's a trickle-down effect with some of that stuff that I don't know if anybody's really thought about.
Right. Yeah. So right now, you want guys, I think, in your building that kind of can have this creative mind about how to earn their guys, money at this point, until somebody comes in and says, you can't do it this way. Right? Because I can bet your ass Nick Saban's got guys that are figuring out how to get his guys paid, right? I mean, you saw himself, get up in the press conference and talk about, well, my quarterback who hasn't played a down yet is making, six figures or something. That's basically him saying, hey, yo, Bob, the one that we're recruiting to come next year? Yeah, I'm talking to you.
That's it. That's exactly, that is basically this is the going rate to be the quarterback out of Alabama, and that's a scary thing. I wanted to ask you before I let you run about Trev. About Trev coming back. I like the hire. The more I think about it, the more I like it. I think it's great. I think the guy's that in a lot of ways he's got the same sort of former Husker legend, went out, got real world experience, now coming back to Nebraska. It's a lot of what Scott did. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was so I kind of just I almost forgot about Trev just because I really was hoping he was going to be the AD when Bill got it, and Bill was great. I didn't have any issues with Bill, but I just kind of thought, well, he must be satisfied, being up there at UNO, and maybe he doesn't want the job. So I was kind of like, let's, John Cook, here's a guy who all he does is win and everything. Perfect. He's probably at a point now where maybe he'd like something new to do. And, the stress of recruiting and doing all that, at some point it's got to get tiresome,
sure.
But bringing Trev back, when I heard it was Trev, I was so happy, because like I said, I mean, from day one when I stepped foot down there at Memorial Stadium, like you could just, without anyone telling me, I knew who the dude was, who the man was in that place, and it was Trev, and he just carries that sort of presence with him. And now he's a guy, that like people can rest assured, like they don't have to worry about an AD not qualified to make a decision as to whether or not the football team is getting better or getting like Trev knows football. Like he can walk into practice, he can watch it for 10 minutes, and he can probably tell you if the team is heading in the right direction or if we're going in the wrong direction. And obviously with the time and that he was up there at UNO, there were some tough decisions that needed to be made. And whether or not he really had a choice in making them when he first got there, whatever. But it was under his watch, and it was made. And I think everyone at UNO is pretty happy now, maybe other than some of the people that
feel for them, but
and
that's
I
part
understand,
of life.
right? Absolutely. So I just think he's even the response like to the little red uniforms. It's like that's perfect. It's just perfect. Like it's. I'm just stoked to have him back. I think he's going to do a great job. He really is. And just listening to him talk a few times, like to the team, it's like, is that T.O. up there? It's like, T.O., you know, kind of where he, who
he learned from.
No
doubt.
Yeah.
I watched that. The last game we watched was the '93 Orange Bowl. He sacked Charlie Ward 3 times. They had to go.
Had like a dislocated elbow.
Yeah, dislocated elbow. He's got the whole shit taped up. Yeah. Bobby Bowden, R.I.P., at halftime basically said, he's being interviewed by O.J. Simpson, and he's like, we got to go shotgun the whole second half. When we're under center, we can't protect Charlie, and that was all Trev.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Trev was on his ass the whole game.
And I remember, he really hadn't practiced a lot leading up to that game.
Because he did it in the last game of the season.
Yeah. Yep.
The elbow injury.
Yep. And so, there's basically 4 weeks or something, I think, till the bowl game. And he was probably, I'm not sure if he had surgery or not, but I want to say it was not until the last few days before the game that he actually started to take some reps and stuff, and nobody kind of knew what was going to happen, and all of a sudden he just went off. He
was unbelievable in that game.
Yeah, he was the real deal. Trev could. He was talented, and but like I said, he's so smart and just. Not a guy who's going to rush to judgment or he thinks everything through. Trust me. I mean, for any Nebraska fan out there, the program is in great hands. Not good hands, great hands, I think.
So what'll game day be like for you? Are you down there on the sidelines?
I don't know.
What are you going to do?
I try to get Frosty to, hey, what's your plan with me? What do you want from me on game day?
We might have to cage you up, though, man. I don't know, if we get the juices going, we might have to be a little careful. We saw. I don't know if you got one more game of eligibility in you, man. But
come back in old school. We were talking about old school today, where they have to go through the test, physical testing, right? And the one guy who's the mascot and jumps through the ball, the thing of hook of flames,
the ring of fire.
Yeah. Hey, that's gonna be me coming out before.
I bet it will be. You're gonna lead him out the tunnel and jump him through a ring of fire. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Jason, man, this is about an hour. You were gracious with your time. We need to do this more. I can't believe it had been 2 years, man.
Absolutely.
This was great. Good luck, and we'll touch base in the season, bro.
Yeah. Get over to Clean Juice, buddy.
There we go. Clean Juice. Get out there. I need to do it. All right, my thanks to Pella. If you're thinking about a new window or a new door, now is the time. Check them out online on the web at PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com. And my thanks to my good friends at Runza. Best fries on the planet, great burgers, cheese Runza, delicious. The food is simply fantastic. Runza makes it all better.
A Huda Media Production.